Good evening, folks. I'm here to rant about job interviewing. I am a fully employed person. I've never actually had to interview somebody else, but I've done a fair share of interviews. But I wanted to share the world some of my wisdom and some of my insight on what to look out for and what to ask when you're at an interview. All right, first up, if you see a lot of fellow candidates in the office while waiting and they're actively making calls to get more people in for an interview, that tells you it's a high turnover rate position. If you're going to talk to your competition and you're all after the same position, um, what do you really think you want to work there? You're talking to your competition. So either you're going to be working with these people or you're competing with them. So why do you want to be in the same room with the people you're competing with? And if you're working with them, everybody's going to be new. So how much experience are they going to bring to the table? Honestly, most of the time I'm in those positions, it has been for sales jobs, and not just any sales, business to business presentation sales. Now, if it's and you see a lot of people walking out, it means it's a really short interview. So it's just them doing a quick information exchange. They're just debriefing you. They're not. It's not a serious interview. It's 15 minutes or more. A serious interview is an hour or so of allocated time minimum. So if they have a quick meet and greet, I have no idea why you want to be there. Because usually in this situation, they actually have a second interview, which is really bad idea. Because the second interview, keep in mind, I've never done this for this type of company. It's a business-to-business sales position company doing, I don't know, anywhere from customer service for a major phone provider or a office supplies or whatever subject. You can say, oh, our second interview is an all-day interview where we get to see your work ethic, where they would drag you out on presentations. Yeah, they want you to work for free. For free. You really want to do that. And, oh, it's an interview, so they don't have to pay you. Just see your work ethic. Now, any company that tells you, oh, you could have your own office in a year, you open up your own office in 1 year. What the hell are you doing in 1 year? You're going to have enough experience that you have to open up your own damn office, and you're going to be interviewing people to go up on sales calls the next day. I have no idea what you do. I personally hate being in sales. I hated being in sales. I hate person to person meeting. I hate sales. Art of sale. I respect any good sales rep. Any good sales rep, I will really respect, because that's the hardest thing. You convince somebody to hand over their money, to trust you, and if anything goes wrong, we all know how people are about their money. So, yeah, I've also done the Cutco interview. Guess what? I went to their I got accepted in their training program. I did it. I didn't feel comfortable. I left. For this other position, this business to business thing, where the second day is like all interviews, my excuse. I have a pre-existing I have a pre-existing commitment set for that day. Therefore, it shows you're responsible, you respect your commitments, and that if they really want you, they'll reschedule something for when you don't have a pre-existing commitment. Because if they want you out on the field right away, it means it's a high turnover position, so I have no idea why you want that. Now, I was talking to a friend of mine, and we're talking about interview questions. Now, keep in mind, any interview question regarding your health, your family, or your religion is actually illegal in the United States of America. They cannot ask you those questions in the United States unless if they're an equal opportunity employer, right? You can't do age, you can't do health, or family, or anything else about that, because that might impact and to show. Because even though the employer has a financial incentive to check about that, they're not allowed to legally. So you have to check your questions a different way. Alright, legal question 1. How do you communicate with overseas offices, or what's the priority to your answering in overseas offices? Your answer is due diligence and answer in a timely fashion and take into account the time difference. If you're working with Europe, they're at least 5 hours ahead. So you got to answer early in the morning. You're dealing with Asia, Um, your messages come fresh in the morning, so just make sure at the end of the day you check all the messages that came in the morning and sent them out. That's one. Question two. Uh, if you're going to pick a fictional character to base your interview answers on, choose Batman. Batman thinks on his feet, takes the situation hand in hand, going whatever. He's not prepared for everything, but he does the preparation. Treat your interviews as if you were Batman and trying to face off somebody. So, also, the manhole cover. Yeah, that is a valid question. Why are manhole covers round? Well, it's an optimal efficient form, and also allow it's adaptable to multiple situations instead of being square, where if you have a, it's harder to test how right those are, because yeah, it's easier to do check the circumference of something and see if it's even with a stick than it is to say with a square manhole cover. But you have to think on your feet. Think of all the other random questions they are, or how they're also going to test your social skills. So be aware of how do you handle billing reports? How do you deal with an angry customer on the phone? How adaptable are you? How does your degree apply to this job? I am really, really grateful for my degree, but I don't feel the degree itself necessarily applies, but the capacity I learned as a college student applies for my position. Now, I've seen people out there, they have college degrees, and they're working in retail management positions at best. Retail. You spend, I don't know, $50,000 to $100,000 on your degree, and you're working a retail position with people who don't. Alright, have some pride in what you do, and do something that kind of relates to what you do. Otherwise, it's a wasted investment. So, my favorite question to think of is, alright, how do you evaluate the contribution margin of a person's life to society and whatnot? Open-ended question, um, and it's not a question on the value of human life, but how would you evaluate the impact on them of their life? So you take into account. Here's how I would answer. It's like, one, you take into account the utility of what they actually did, the direct contribution to the company, so their salary, to off-hour effects that they had into the economy, such as cooking, cleaning, driving, whatnot, secondary spiral economics or trickle-down economic impact on them, their creative contribution to them, and then also how do they also promoting population growth, adding new workers to it, and promoting consumer spending or not. But that's my brief intro to what is the value of a human life when I'm dealing with interview questions. But I think that's a perfectly legal question. It's how do you determine the contribution a human life has into the economy, right? But then again, that's a little too personal. But you're trying to see how they objectify an abstract into a quantum, the qualitative values of a human being into quantitative terms. But hey, um, what else are you gonna ask? You ask how do you work with overseas? How do you work with women? Yeah, not exactly professional questions. And of course, when you're interviewing, um, ask them, what's the turnover rate? Uh, how do you evaluate loyalty? And yeah, but the whole thing is when you're interviewing, you're selling yourself, and you got to convince them to have faith. Have faith that you can do the job. Sell them that you're actually capable of doing your job. Act as if you can do it, and at least people will believe you can do it. Act as if. And in order to act, the first part of acting as if, look the part. So dress for your interviews. Now, if they say dress in business attire, that means a full suit does not just mean show up with a nice white collared shirt with no tie. A three-piece suit, optimal. I know a lot of people that don't have that. So a two-piece, a good sports jacket, and a good pair of pants. Alright, that's good enough. But I've seen people go to interviews underdressed, wearing, unmatching pant and jacket. I mean, I'll admit, I go to interviews and I don't wear my good socks. That's because I like to wear something I feel comfortable in. But dress the part. And the longer they drag out the interview, The less they throw you off guard with your script. The more you just have to relax and be yourself, and just have faith that they will find the faith to believe in you, or that you want to be comfortable with working them instead of just looking for a job. But hey, that's just my advice.